Oh yeah, it's 4 o'clock.
I think your clock didn't go backwards, Beverly.
I guess not. I'm ahead of the game.
Bionic, good day to you.
It's Denise.
Oh, Denise. Bionic Denise. All right, Steve, Mrs. Steve Austin. Good evening to you, Mrs. Steve Austin.
Hi, Steve.
203. No. I am not Steve. Somebody came on and said her name is Bionic, so I'm calling her Mrs. Steve Austin. Who just could join?
No, that's not me. If I had a choice, it would be Wonder Woman. But go ahead.
Oh, all right, Wonder Woman. And the person from 203, that's Connecticut.
Hello.
Hello.
This is Eileen Ranker from Florida.
How are you?
Wonderful.
And
Leo, this is also.
This is who?
Leo, this is Akeelia. It's also viewing live on Facebook as well.
I know. We're streaming
good.
live. That's nice. That's nice to hear.
This is Ella Gooden.
Good day, Ella.
How are you?
I am good, Ella. You know, I need to introduce you to your cousin-in-law.
Who? Kimon?
Kimon, yeah.
You went already, remember? Didn't we meet at JCA?
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Nice to hear you.
Yes, same here. How you doing?
Hello?
Yeah,
hello.
Good day, good day. Who's
yes.
this?
This is Mr. Douglas. Mr. Herman Douglas.
Oh, Herman Douglas. Good day to you.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. This is Norma Jarrett.
Yes,
Norma,
Miss Jarrett.
good day to you.
Hi, Norma. How are you?
I'm good. Good, guys. Good.
Nice to hear you. It's been a while.
I'm confused because I don't know who I'm speaking with.
You're speaking with Leo Gilling. I am Leo Gilling.
Huh?
I am Leo Gilling. I'm Leo Gilling.
Mr. Gillings.
Yes, man.
That name does not sound strange to me at all. Yes, sir. So what's new now?
We're good. I'm welcoming everybody on the call. So I may go to the next person in a second. Someone from 203 and 321.
The 203 Norma Jarrett.
Oh, that's Norma. Okay.
Yes, dear.
I mean, Leo, it's Denise, but you're using a 203 number.
Oh, is that? Oh, yeah, I know that you're 203 also, but there are two.
Oh.
Superwoman. I mean, not Superwoman, whatever. Wonder Woman.
You're a mess.
We're coming up to 5 after, Leo. You want to kick off the meeting?
We're 5 after? All right.
We're
coming up to that, yes.
So the meeting is being recorded and we're live on Facebook.
Nice. Yeah, so what's problem we're going to tackle now for Jamaica? Because there's a lot of problem down there.
Yeah, man, we know, but what we're going to do this evening is to arm you with the tools so that you can help to tackle it. All right. So just keep your ears tuned so that you can learn how to do this. Okay, it's very important.
Well, the thing up with me now, I really know about some. I go to Jamaica every year. Put that
All right, so just hold a second for that. So Leo, it's 5 after 1.
All right, it's 5 after now. Okay, so I'm gonna ask everybody to mute their phones and their online tool. Please mute your phones, and then we'll start the meeting. Please mute. Everyone, just mute. You can still hear me if you mute your phones. Everyone, just mute, please. Mute. Shirley, mute.
We're good. Everyone's muted. Everyone's muted.
All right, everybody's muted. Okay. I want to say thank you. Thank you for joining. We're gonna have a lot of people joining, so don't be interrupted by the persons who are coming on. I want to say welcome to everyone here. This is kind of a unique situation because we're going to cover two different topics this evening. One is a short one, so we'll leave that for later on, and the other one is a little bit lengthier. But I'm telling you, you're not going to be disappointed. We're on Facebook. I want to say good day to the persons on Facebook. Thank you. Kimon and myself will be following you on, and if you have any questions, we'll take the questions as we go. Thank you for tuning in. Today we have a young lady who has done a lot of work in Jamaica, a lot of research, and she has brought her research to the forefront so that you can use this tool to help to make decisions as to where you go with matters of corruption, what you need to do by accessing the tool that she has. The tool is called Jamaica Accountability Meter Tool. It's JAMP. Am I right? Okay. Portal. Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal, JAMP for short. And her name is Jeanette Calder. I've worked with Jeanette for the past 3 or 4 years. I've met her. She's dedicated, committed, hardworking, everything that you ever know good as far as creating new information and new knowledge. I want to say thank you, Jeanette, for coming on. And I'm going to open the line for you in about 30 seconds after I say I'd like persons to stay on for the question and answer session from Jeanette. And also for another session, we'll have Professor Hamilton, another hard worker, to tell you about a project that's coming up. So stay with us, stay tuned. I wish that you could have downloaded the app on your phone so that you can get to see the actual documents that's being displayed. But just please listen up. She's very clear. All right, and I'm going to ask you also to wait until she's done before you go to question and answer, because we're not really in a room. We're a physical room. We're online. All right. So Jeanette Calder, welcome. Take the floor for me.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Leo. It's really special to me that you would be the person connecting me to Jamaicans abroad. I couldn't script it any better. Leo is right. We had the pleasure of meeting through Rosalia Hamilton, which most of you would be familiar with, working on the Day of Service Diaspora projects in 2017 and in 2015. And I've come to really enjoy listening to Leo as he plays music for me. I'm rocking back here on a Sunday. So I'm really thankful for the 30, well, I should say the 29 Jamaicans who have taken the time out this evening to come and to listen. I'm particularly grateful for the presence of Professor Rosalia Hamilton. I've always teased Rosalia and tell folks that if I hold on to her coattails, she has never steered me wrong. And you will also hear as I go through the presentation, Rosalia's contribution to how this tool came about. Now, I really would like to start off by sharing with you what the theory of change is for what JAMP is hoping in terms of providing this tool. It's very important that before I jump into showing you the tool, that I provide a little bit of context, because there are a lot of questions that are being raised around it. And I think they're legitimate questions. And so I want to start off by just clearing the air, sharing with you what I consider to be the theory of change around this tool. Now, the name already suggests what we're about. We are focused on accountability. We're not just monitoring it, we're measuring it. We believe that if you just look at something and report on it, that's one level. But if you begin to measure, you kind of get a sense of the impact that the problem is creating, but also the impact that the solution, when you're getting closer to that. But I really want to preface it all by saying that the change and the advancement that we are seeking, Jamaicans at home and abroad, is not possible without citizen engagement. And I know I'm speaking to the converted because, not Leo, Kimon, John, Rosie, some of those who are on the call are already citizens who are engaged. And maybe that's why it's good to start with you, because you're already beyond the point of inertia. But I want to underscore that many of us have been talking about the subject rather than engaging around the subject of accountability. So that's the first thing. The second thing for the theory of change is that there is a lack of information and an understanding, and wherever that is, we're always going to be shortchanging what we can achieve. That is what got me off the sidelines. As Leo said, we needed to do research in order to understand the problem around accountability before we could begin to figure out where the gaps are and how to fix it. The third theory has to do with people need a vehicle and they need a space to comfortably make a contribution. There have been a number of groups that have come up over the years when I was far from apathetic, but I never engaged because I wasn't sure if I could trust what they were about. And I really was just about one thing, Jamaica. But you also need a space where people can gather, exchange, and make that impact. And that's the third thing. The fourth thing, and many persons don't agree with me, that's okay. But for me, though the faces in the parliament have remained the same over decades and far longer than we probably think is best for good governance, I am of the view that our parliamentarians are not the same as they were in the 70s or in the 80s or in the 90s or even 5 years ago. There is evidence of their willingness to operate differently, but without a demand and without pressing in, I don't think we are realizing how far they have come. But it is because I am of that view why I believe that JAMP is a timely tool. The fifth of seven is that accountability is the master key for me. It's not just a key. None of us on this call would have gotten anywhere in life without a teacher, without an employer, or without even self-regulation around accountability. Where you want to go, how you're going to get there, where you reach, what you not do, what you're supposed to do. If there is not that kind of self-examination or somebody holding you to account, none of us would have been here doing what we're doing today. And it's the same. So I consider it to be the key to maximizing value for our taxes and optimizing all the public resources to get better services. And last, in order for us to foster this culture of accountability, which is almost non-existent, really and truly in government, that's what the research shows, and that's what we know, is that we have to have access to accurate and timely information. If you don't get the information when you want it, the window of opportunity closes very fast. So it has to be access to information. It has to be timely and not just accessible, but people need to be able to understand the information that is being given to them. Without that, then really and truly there's no empowerment. So JAMP really is a tool that's being created with the hope that those six theories of change can converge, and that's really how I want to enter into sharing with you now a little bit of the context around and just let me know for those of you who can see if you are seeing the slide changing on your side so that I can feel free to proceed. Yeah.
Yes, it's changing, Jeanette.
Thank you very much, Kimon. So I can start by just jumping into the tool, but I must be honest with you, I'm going to try and see how rapidly and quickly I can go. But the context is really important. The tool in and of itself, yes, but you need to understand why this has happened, where we're coming from, so that you can more understand the how and the what we're doing. So Leo, I know, and I think Kimon, it was really wonderful that they were able to join us live streaming for the launch. So I had shared that I have spent my own time, most of us, if not all of us, I don't know if there are any yardies in Jamaica literally on with us, but I have spent time as a member of the diaspora, and I can remember the frustration with feeling like a refugee, watching things at home and needing to see it change. So when I came back in 2012, I did some studies as to whose idea was it for us to try this thing called becoming independent from Britain. I've been to several islands who are still under the colonies, and I wonder if they are not much better off than we are. And that's when I discovered about this group called the Jamaica Progressive League, which was really a very powerful experience back in 1936 in New York, when most of you might have heard of Walter Adolph Roberts, where he had left Jamaica after writing for the Gleaner between the ages of 16 and 18. He used to cover the parliament, left a lot of impact on him. And when he went abroad, he became a famous journalist and author and a poet. And just about when he was turning 50, He came to the conclusion in Harlem in the 1930s that the Caribbean was really ready to cut ties with the mother country. So to cut a long story short, he gathered a lot of Caribbean people together and a lot of the poets and writers that you know by name. And they spent 1 year doing research so that they could come up with a sound plan and an idea as to how they were going to go back to their respective countries to convince their homeland that they were ready for independence. Well, the bottom line is that we all know what happened in 1938 with the labor riots, and this turned out to be very opportune that we had members of the diaspora who were funding, not only funding, but putting the mental rigor behind this idea of independence, had policy positions, and were here in Jamaica walking the streets and pounding the pavements, trying to convince other Jamaicans that the time for change had come. It was hard work because Jamaicans at the time could not conceive of being cut loose from Britain. In the same way, many of us cannot conceive of literally dialing back this problem of corruption, waste, and mismanagement that we have. However, because they were prepared, when the labor riots happened 2 years after they started, Jamaicans were able to speak to the mother country in a way the rest of the other islands couldn't because the research had been done, policy positions were in place. I think there's a quote out there that says, I don't know who can help me with it, that says that, something about hard work. It's not about luck. Luck, what people look and always think is luck of the draw, was always preceded by hard work so that when the opportunity came, you could capitalize on it. Now, really and truly, I was inspired in 2012 after 3 months of research what it is what we were able to achieve with the diaspora connecting with local Jamaicans here. And I am convinced beyond a shadow of a doubt that it is going to take that same kind of collaboration for us to change the wheels of governance in Jamaica. So between 2012 and 14, I got involved in advocacy with persons like Rosalia and a couple other Jamaicans here, and I learned a lot about what the toolbox of advocacy was. But then in 2014, we had that scandal, which most of you might have heard about, the Outer scandal with the NHT. And coming out of that scandal was an Auditor General's report, which is really was what was the game changer. And I believe that this public institution is a game changer if citizens would engage with the kind of service that they are providing in an exemplary manner every month and every year. What came out of this was a report that challenged me to go back and look at the other Auditor General's reports. And for those of you who can see the screen, this is just some of the reports in the Gleaner. Remember, the Gleaner dates all the way back to slavery, 1834. And if I may make a plug, if you can subscribe to the Gleaner archive, it's a treasure trove of information. So these are just some of the headlines from 1958 coming all the way back to present that showed that the problem of waste and mismanagement predated even independence. Yeah. Now that really bothered me. And so there were that was 2014. By the time 2016 came along, there were two consultancies, and I want the listeners to appreciate that these two consultancies is what really has made JAMP possible. We cannot have the change that we're seeking if we're not empowered by understanding certain things about governance and government and how the country run. I just bought an old car and it used to intimidate me, but that car broke down so much now. It's a beautiful old Mitsubishi Eclipse, beautiful engine. But Leo, it broke down so much now. I am no longer discouraged because I've come to understand that engine and how it works. And because I know how it works, it no longer intimidates me. So I'm saying that these two consultancies, first one in 2016, was to break down Jamaica's budget to understand it myself. And with Rosalia and her team, we created the first citizens budget and guide. And it was a very empowering thing to be able to understand the budget of Jamaica, because the budget of Jamaica is the family budget. It is a policy document. It is a promise book. And at the heart of it, if you can understand that, it is a game changer for understanding how government works. The second one was that we had to get money from the European Union through a proposal. to find out why is it we keep on seeing these headlines about mismanagement, waste, and corruption down through the decades, regardless of administration. Now, it is on the back of that. I can share the slide with you very quickly,
I'm trying.
and I'm getting some
Yeah,
feedback. I'm not sure who is not
yeah.
muted.
That's why I did this one. That's why I don't.
Not sure who is not muted, but we're getting some feedback, guys.
Yeah, I'm checking. Go ahead.
Right. So this slide is basically showing you very quickly what the accountability budget of Jamaica has been. And these are the top 7 agencies with a to the tune of 2.5 billion Jamaican dollars is what we spend every year. So what we're really saying on this presentation today is, folks, if we're gonna have to give up 2.5 billion dollars a year, we really ought to be getting value for money, and we know we're not. So then what do we do? So we had this research that looked at who are the players in the accountability framework, what happened to the Auditor General's report when it gets to Parliament and after, who is responsible to hold the public officials to account, are there any sanctions available, what are they working, are there any particular problematic institutions? And we went through the whole gamut. And as always with any research, you want to make recommendations. But what was key for us in this is there anything that the citizens of Jamaica and civil society bodies could do rather than just say to the government, boy, go fix it? What could we do to stand in the gap? So I'm just gonna very, very on rapid fire go through these slides just to give those of us who might not be very familiar with the extent of the issues, the last 5 years of what we would call the highlight of accountability challenges in Jamaica. So from 2014, we had a 1.7 billion. And by the way, all of these details have been extracted from Auditor General's reports over the last 5 years. So for 2014, as an example, we have $1.78 billion taken from an account by the NWC without approval. 1.78 billion. The Auditor General could only get receipts for 72 million. That's less than 10%. In 2015, in the middle of an IMF situation, we borrowed $8.6 billion from China in order to build houses. 91% of those houses were not built. 21% of the lots were not constructed. All of that money was nonetheless paid out to the developer, who was also China. In 2016, we don't have a figure, but I want to show you where some of the governance challenges lie when you have an organization such as the Institute of Sports, where for the last 23 years up to 2016, and I'm sure if you add the last 26 years, we have never gotten a financial statement from that agency indicating what have you done with the money, with the taxes that have been allocated to it. And in 2017, most of us would be familiar with the Ports Authority issue, where one civil servant was given 3 pensions totaling $31 million. That matter is currently in the courts. Last year, when most of us were discussing Petrojam, there was a report in February where the National Insurance Fund, which deals with the pensioners, had invested $3.1 billion in companies with, when I say no approval, the board of the agency did not approve it. The Ministry of Finance did not know or approve of it. Neither did the Cabinet of Jamaica. So the question is, how does an agency spend 3.1 billion? That matter is discovered. And after a year and a half, we are yet to get a proper report from the Financial Investigation Division on that. And last, just earlier this year in April, we had $1.8 billion from the constabulary force being spent without tender, 81% of that being spent without tender. And you know what that means. You pick a man, you give him the contract. So those are some of the issues and our conclusion as it relates to the gaps in accountability. And I'm going to quickly run through them and you can ask me to elaborate when we get to the Q&A. We discovered that 6 public officials are empowered in government to sanction most, if not all, of those issues I just pointed to. But there is poor enforcement. Of course, insufficient collaboration between the different watchdog agencies. They're not speaking to each other. They're not reading each other's reports. Number 3, insufficient citizen engagement. That's the 9-day wonder factor that we've been complaining about. 4, insufficient sittings of the Public Accountability Committee, which is the chief oversight committee of the Parliament that scrutinizes to make sure that we spent according to the budget. 6 and 5 and 4 times a year, when a country is having these challenges is deemed insufficient. And the last three will be lack of parliamentary discussion. The majority of these don't make it to the agenda of the House to discuss and to fix. And the same thing with the cabinet. And last but the most important is that there is no mechanism in the government of Jamaica that we could find that follows up these issues so that even when the parliament debates it or when the citizens bawl out about it, when the Public Accounts Committee has given an instruction as to how to remedy it, there is no mechanism in the government that follows it up to find out what is happening in 3 months, in 9 months, in 12 months to ensure that the breach has been remedied. So though we lose the money, we should not have this recurring again. Now that was the breach that was the gap that has really inspired this tool. Now, if you're looking at the screen, that captures what's been going on over the years where we have a breach, one party points at the other one, and there becomes this debate about who is the most corrupt or who is the worst in terms of governance, and it never moves anything forward. So I'm really about to present to you what we think and we believe, and I am really convicted that we will be able to turn the wheels of governance if we have the kind of tool that would help us as citizens and government to fill those gaps that I mentioned a while ago. So the three tools have been basically compacted into one tool called JAMP, as Leo said, the Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal. Now, what are those tools? It's broken down now into 3 parts, and we will be growing them out into different trackers as the months and the weeks come. But we start with the Accountometer, which is basically a database that is tracking the issues that the Auditor General points out, like all of them I just referred to a while ago, using a tool that the government of Jamaica has given to us as citizens. And there are several tools. The problem is that many of us are not aware of them. And if we are aware of them, we don't know how to use them. So this one is the Access to Information tool, which you have in the US and I'm sure in the Canada and in the UK, which will allow us to inquire through the agencies and have them provide us with documentation to substantiate what has been done to correct the situation. I think most of us might be familiar with the tagline for the Washington Post, which says, "Democracy dies in the darkness." So the whole idea, if you just think about it from a human perspective, we've all had jobs, we've all had supervisors. When you know somebody's watching, just the idea that somebody's watching, it modifies behavior, even before you make a demand. And that's what we're hoping will come out of this Accountometer. We begin to watch, we begin to track, we begin to report, it begins to modify behavior. The MP tracker is the second tool, which is basically going to be tracking using the same access to information, the performance of our members of parliament. I want to pause just to remind us that one of the campaign promises coming into this administration, I mean, generally, our Prime Minister has felt very strongly about good governance and accountability. But one of them in specific is that he would provide us with a job description for the members of parliament. You can't hold somebody to account when you do not know what their job is. So we are going to begin the conversation with our political leader by beginning to identify certain indicators of key performance, track them and report on them, and go one step further, literally provide a score and a grade, simply because these variables and indicators are non-subjective. It's basic math, and I'll show you in a minute. Now, the third one is the legislative tracker, which is really us recognizing, for example, that when NIDS happened last year, it's something that is going to directly impact the diaspora. When you come home, your access to public services can be compromised if you don't understand this thing. Most Jamaicans didn't know what this legislation was about or how it was going to impact them. So what JAMP is going to be doing, some key and crucial pieces of legislation. We're going to break down how the parliament works because it needs to be demystified. And then we're going to track certain legislation as it goes through the House so that the citizens can engage, whether you are at home or abroad, because the tool, JAMP, gives you access not just to the parliament, but the parliamentarians and those who literally work in the House. So let me just quickly give you an overview as fast as I can as to how the tool works and invite you, when we are through, to have a look at it. And you'd still be able to send any questions to me that I might not be able to cover this evening. Now, here is just a screen capture of what the account meter looks like. And very quickly, there's a very effective search field here, which allows you to search for a breach, a concern, you would say a scandal. I prefer to call it a breach, using any keyword you want. First of all, you could just click on the button that says view all breaches, and you can just go through the 47 that we have started looking at already. But you can put in a keyword. For most of us, like myself, I had a real interest in the outer many and where it is at. So you could just type in NHT or National Housing Trust or outer many, and you will get some updates on where the government is in fixing that. You'll be able to click based on government ministry. Suppose you are interested in a particular ministry, you could search to see what the issues are based on the sector or based on the type of breach. We are really working in collaboration with the Auditor General's department. So we are really not citizens off on our own doing our own thing. And what the Auditor General does is she identifies breach in 4 categories. One is procurement, one is project management, one is resource management, and one is a general theme called governance. So if you're interested in how contracts are being dealt out in Jamaica, you would hit types of breach and you could select procurement breach. So you could hone in on a particular issue. And the last way in which you can search would be the status of compliance. Most of us not really interested in knowing anything other than maybe which ministries have not done anything at all about a breach. You would be able to click on no compliance whatsoever, and the breaches would be filtered down to show you those. If you're interested in seeing which ministries have actually remedied their breaches, because you want to commend them, and you should, you would be able to click on the button that says, show me all the breaches where there is full compliance. Now, here's a quick example. If we type in here the Office of the Prime Minister, which is one probably many people would want to maybe take a quick look at, you would see on the right here that there are 4 breaches and 4 issues that we're currently tracking. If you click on any one of them, and let's try the one without a many because the NHT reports to the Office of the Prime Minister, it would take you to this page, which gives you a small summary of what the issue is, tells you which ministry of government is responsible because it's not that clear to everybody, especially because there are some agencies that you would think might fall under a particular ministry, but it falls under the Office of the Prime Minister. Here you have a score. So we have a meter that's literally telling you at a glance how far that ministry or agency is in remedying the breach. And here you have what the Auditor General's concern was. We're not paraphrasing, we're giving it to you just as she has given it to us. Naturally, because this is a digital platform and we want to get the word out and we want to engage citizens, we have the social media buttons for you to share it if this is a concern that you want to share with others. And if we move on, this is where I believe the information and the empowerment begins to happen. The first tab you're looking at here says breach details. It tells you what the recommendation was coming out of that watchdog agency. We are starting with the Auditor General, but we're gonna be moving out beyond just that office to the Contractor General, which is now called the Integrity Commission. We'll be looking at MOCA and we'll be looking at some other watchdog agencies. But for now, it's the AG's office. Now, when we move beyond recommendation, because we want to tell you what it is that they need to fix, JAMP provides below what the updates are. And you'll be able to go and look at this afterwards. To the right, you're going to see several other breaches. We would like you to come and take a look at while you're looking at maybe that particular one you came to. And below, it's very important that you realize that we will be uploading for you the actual documentation that was provided. We want you to be able to see the government's response and not just take our word for it. So if you click on this, you will see the NHT documentation telling us how much more money we have had to spend on outer many since 2014. The issue then was 180 million. Up to August of this year, it is $290 million and counting. Now, as always, there is room on the website for you to give feedback and to share with the government and the rest of citizens how you feel about that. Now, when you click on the tab to the right, if you can see my cursor here, this was breach details. If you click on articles and reports, it's a deeper dive in. We will here give you links to the actual reports from the Auditor General and all the school of thought, the Diaspora writing. Leo gets the letter of the day commenting on the matter. We will upload it so that others can have his viewpoint, your viewpoint. The private sector organization had written on the matter. We will upload that. The responses from the government, and below any video clips relating to the issue, both those from the parliament itself as well as other news items. Now, if you click here on accountable officers, this is where I think the magic is going to begin. Simply because if I give you information as the diaspora and you're all the way over there and you can't physically go down to the parliament, you're going to say, boy, Miss Calder, all you do is hot up my head. But what we're giving you is an opportunity to make direct contact and link with the public officials that are accountable officers. And as you can see from the screenshot, we start with the permanent secretary because the permanent secretary and not the ministers of government are the chief accounting officers. So through the social media links provided, well, first of all, you now know who they are. The average Jamaican citizen is not familiar with who is in charge. So what we want to do is remove the veil of anonymity so you actually know who he or she is, and provide you with links via email, Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook so you can ask some questions about the outer many situation if you desire to. We also have to the right here the minister who has responsibility for that portfolio. In this case, it would be our prime minister. But we go one step further. You should know who the board chair is, and you ought to know who the managing director is. So we have provided emails which give you direct access to inquire, what have you done? What are you doing? Where is it now? And that's not something our great grandparents, my grandparents, or even my father had. Not even Walter Adolph Roberts, and he was able to change a lot about Jamaica without the kind of tools we have today. So jumping ahead to the next slide, which is the next tab, which is the call to action. Let us say, for instance, that the members of the diaspora are sufficiently aggrieved about a matter, and you can't physically go stand on the street, and there is nothing wrong with standing on the street. That's how you have a conversation with your leader to let them know say something really upon you. This is how you get their attention, and this is how you converse with them. Now, we're saying to the diaspora, if, for instance, there's a matter that JAMP is sharing, and you feel that you want to engage, and there's a call to action, and one of the easy ways to do this is a petition. If JAMP is tracking that issue, you would get in touch with us. We would upload what your call to action is, whether it's just a letter calling the government to account, whether it is a petition, whether it is another online gathering such as this. But you want the rest of citizens to come and to support it. This is where we would put that information. So as you move from the left to right, you get the breach details, you get even a deeper dive. You can now immediately, as you're informed, contact the officers to say how you feel. And then you move along to see, is there anything that citizens are doing about it? JAMP will host it right here so that you can increase support. Now, last on this matter, if you go back to where we started, and I had indicated that we would say which ministry would be responsible for this breach, you could click literally on the name of the ministry here, and it would take you to a page that is looking at not just that one breach. But you might want to say, all right, so outer many is an issue. NHT might have never handled that well, but the government changed the board, which they did, and things are going nicely now. But how is that ministry doing overall with the breaches and the issues that they need to fix? And this page would tell you that right now JAMP is tracking what? 4 breaches under the office of the Prime Minister, and the status is there, as well as a meter which gives you an idea as to how overall the office of the Prime Minister is handling these matters. And similarly, you would be able to see down here those 4 breaches, which you would be able to click on any one of them that is of interest to you. Now, if it's fully, you just want to look at the ones that are being worked on, you will click here on partially compliant, and it would take you immediately to the one to show you the details on it. And that's how basically the accounter meter works. The MP tracker is basically the same principle, so I can run through that a little quicker. It does have a filter option, just like the accounter meter, where you can put in a keyword, the name of any MP, to see what does JAMP have to say about what they're measuring. The political party, if you click on here, you select PNP or JLP, this section on the right here will narrow all the 63 MPs down to just those that you're interested in terms of the party. And there are a lot of citizens who are not familiar with all the members and which party they belong to. In terms of the parliamentary positions, the same thing. If you don't know who the Speaker of the House is and you want to contact him, this is where you would find out. And as well as who is assigned to what ministry. Now, I just want to show you really quickly here. Some members on this presentation would want to focus, as we have, on the members of the Public Accounts Committee and the Public Administration and Appropriations Committee, because they are dealing with the breaches and the issues of waste. Clicking on any of these would tell you immediately who they are, so you would know who to contact. The name of the MP, the constituency, and their portfolio is all found on this page. Now, let me give you an example of how this would quickly work. If we typed in Julian Robinson as a member of parliament here, and we chose Julian because Julian was very responsive in giving us data, and without data, it's a little harder to demonstrate how this works. Here is the score for the MP. This is a profile on the MP that tells you a little bit about him, which we find very useful. His party, how to contact him on all the platforms, including via email. And as simple as you see it, guys, it's not easy to find out where the constituency offices are or how to contact it. There is no database in government. JAMP is providing that to make it easier for citizens. Now below, we have the three first key performance indicators: attendance, House of Representatives, he's doing fairly well at 80%, and his performance on the Public Accounts Committee. Then Constituency Development Fund, for those of us who don't know, each MP gets $20 million, and we think it's important for accountability that we know how you have spent it and that it was done on the constituency to develop it. So we are tracking the fact that you are meeting with your constituents to determine how to utilize that 20 million, as well as providing reports as to how you spent that 20 million. Now, let me just, before I move on, say that JAMP is not going to be assessing the report. What JAMP is doing is making it easily available for the citizens of Jamaica to access, so that they can have a conversation with their MP that they're not able to have right now. And if they're members of the diaspora who is registered in Mr. Robinson's constituency, it would be here. Maybe you have even contributed to this fund. I don't know. You would like to know what the MP is doing. This is where you'd be able to come. And last, asset declaration. It has been very topical because in every country, including the States, Canada, and UK, parliamentarians have to declare how they've earned their money and how they spent it in order to ensure integrity. Now, we are looking at the last 5 years. And as you can see here, we are able to tell you whether or not a parliamentarian declared his assets, whether he was late, whether he was not cleared by the commission, which means that he could not or she could not satisfy them in terms of their earnings and their spending, whether or not they had to be reported to the parliamentary leaders, whether or not, very importantly, they were reported to the Director of Public Prosecution to be prosecuted in court, and few of them are, and whether they have been fined. Now, I really want to stress the point here that this is something JAMP is able to provide because the government reports would tell us in that manner, in that level of detail. Now, you might have all heard about the new single anti-corruption agency. Since that has come into being, we can no longer provide that information because that act renders that report silent on this matter. Now, we can talk about it another time, but I personally call that a serious retrograde step. In the era of governance and transparency, this is really a backward move, and it is of great concern to us. And it is something we're going to have to continue to lobby and advocate the government of Jamaica to correct. But as you can see here, there's nothing to report. Now, let me just give you a quick look at another MP. For everywhere you see the red check mark, it means that there was an offense and a breach under the law. So that's the difference with, say, Mr. Robinson and other MPs, where you can see that there are a number of offenses. And if I were a citizen and a constituent in this constituency, I would certainly want to have a conversation with my MP that I could not have had before. Last but by no means least for the presentation is the legislative tracker. And it basically is the most underdeveloped at this point in time because it's going to take some funding to get attorneys on board to do what we've always complained about, that we can't understand these legislation and we need to break them down for the citizens. So I'm going to invite you just to take a look, see at the legislative tracker after. But in closing, there is one bill that is currently, or rather one piece of information that is currently on this website that I must bring to your attention as I close. the Prime Minister had made one other promise as it relates to accountability, and it was to retable a very, very important piece of legislation. It's one that's dear to my heart, and I know Rosalia might have been speaking to the diaspora about it. It's the Constitution Amendment Impeachment Act. And this is an act that was really drafted under the Jamaica Labour Party and tabled by Bruce Golding as Prime Minister in 2011. But he demitted office, as you know, prematurely, and so the bill died. So what we have done is we have loaded it up on the website, and this is just to give you an idea as to how the website will work. There will be a link to the actual bills that we're tracking, as well as explanatory notes, meaning that we have broken down the bill out of legalese into normal language so citizens understand what it is about. There'll be an overview of the bill itself. This is the actual simplified version of this act that is now loaded up on the site. But it gives you a little bit of the history of the bill, and very importantly, who is the member of parliament that is sponsoring the bill. In this case, it was Delroy Chuck. We will also provide videos educating you about how the parliament works, and we currently have one up that explains how a bill gets through the parliament. And last, we have a timeline on the bill. Now, I want to invite you to come and look at this bill, because this is the bill that will empower the citizens pretty much of what's going on in the US right now, where you will not have to wait on a general election to say to a member of parliament, we have lost confidence in you and you no longer can serve as a public official. It also is a bill that will allow the rest of Jamaica not to be held hostage by a constituency that says, well, we want him and too bad if you don't. It gives the rest of us citizens access and a mechanism where we can actually ask the government to look at this situation and to ask this MP to step down. And the whole process is described on the website right now. But this is something we would like citizens to see retabled in the House as part of the commitment that the Prime Minister made. He did say that this is something he would be willing to do within the first 100 days of becoming Prime Minister. We have gone 3 years, and I still think there is time for us to hold him to this promise. I believe Mr. Holness would engage us if we are prepared to engage him, but the idea is to provide you with the information so that we can start this conversation. And I thank you very much for your time. That's the board of JAMP, which you can get some more information on. And I thank you. And we can just move into the Q&A. I hope that was not too lengthy.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. There are a lot of persons. There are a lot of persons listening to you, both on this format and on Facebook. So if there are any persons who wish to ask a question, please go ahead and type it in or raise your hands and Kimon will let you in. Please just only if you want to ask a question, do you unmute, okay? Right now we're getting a lot of feedback. All right.
Good evening, let me turn this on.
There you go.
Yeah, this is Ray Nelson. I'm in New Jersey. I had a question for the presenter, and thank you. Very well done. In terms of benchmark, in terms of breaches that may have occurred, what have you used in terms of case study to determine the severity of a breach? And if so, how do we know which one is impeachable? And, based on your meter in terms of the MP tracking, because you have some folks who might be ignorant because of lack of knowledge, but you have other folks who will be ignorant if you just say breach, and they will go and they could be violent against the MP unnecessarily and they raise up a riot or whatever because they have no idea what is the extent of the breach.
Right.
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you very much for the question. Well, your question really is overlapping two trackers, but you are right in believing that those first two trackers are related. A breach will be tied to a member of parliament, provided that that member of parliament is a member of the cabinet and has ministerial responsibility for that agency or that ministry where the breach occurred. One of the things that is very important to say about JAMP is that all the information that we are providing, our goal is merely to make information that already exists in the public domain more accessible to Jamaicans at home and abroad. So the information that we have there is provided by the government. The Auditor General's Department is a state agency. And any and every report that she tables in the House automatically becomes publicly accessible. So if you do go to the website and you see a breach, when JAMP describes what the breach is, this is just information that we have lifted out of a report and made available to the public. However, there are also links to the report directly on the Auditor General's website. So you will not just be downloading information that JAMP said and read, but based on those tabs that I shared with you, you would be able to go to the one that says breach details, and that link, which says full report, will take you to the Auditor General, where that citizen can read for him or herself to understand that this is a government report. JAMP is only making that report more available. Now, I just want to say with regards to citizens possibly, um, acting inappropriately, responding inappropriately, we have really grown and we have really evolved as a people. And this is a kind of issue that we are discussing even now. We've been discussing the Petrojam, we've been discussing the Caribbean Maritime Institute, and these are major breaches. And so far, we've really handled it, I think, with a certain level of maturity that has convinced the board of JAMP and myself that Jamaicans can look at these things maturely without it getting to the level that it used to get to in the past. And so it is with that reassurance that we're providing the tool, because I think both our parliamentarians and our people have matured to the point where we won't go back to that kind of behavior.
Thank you very much. Anyone else has a question? You can unmute. You can unmute if you have a question.
Hi, this is Carol Robinson. I just have a quick question. Is there any mechanism or funding or community activism that would create a public awareness campaign for the grassroots people, for the local people, through whatever community group, whether it's through a community group like the church or otherwise?
Very good question. Thank you for that, Carol. Yes, some persons have been concerned that because it is a digital platform, that it actually does render the information still inaccessible to a lot of folks. Well, the first thing I want to encourage you is that the level of penetration of digital use, smartphone uses in Jamaica is really high. We're up to at least 1 million the last time they checked, which was in 2016, and it should be more. And a lot of grassroots people are tapping in through digital means. So that's the first thing. The second thing is through the funding of this project by the European Union, and I'm really glad I'm remembering to say that because we're really grateful for that support. It's not just going to be a matter of building the website and we talking to our political leaders through it and leaving out the rest of folks. Part of the project proposal speak to us using the traditional means, going into citizens associations, parish development committees, the Kiwanis, the Lioness clubs, the schools. There's a whole other arm of explaining the tool and promoting the tool. But while doing that, the two major education drives of JAMP is to explain public financial management through teaching people how to understand the budget and explaining the parliament. And so there will be that kind of face-to-face engagement in the way advocates have traditionally used those methods. So it's a combination of the digital as well as the traditional methods. And quite frankly, I will be in Florida in another week and a half. So if you guys also wanted me to actually visit and to present so we could talk about it some more, that kind of face-to-face can also be facilitated.
Thank you. Great questions, guys. Keep them coming. Anyone else? Just unmute and ask
Thank
questions.
you.
All right, so we have a couple of, this is Kimon, really quickly, a couple of questions and comments. First, Maggie Sutherland saying, wow, great work to this team. You have your work cut out for you. I wish you great success. And Alicia Williams, I'm absolutely loving this brief. This is awesome tool and platform to improve the government of Jamaica. And then a question, does the website give summary reports for the MPs on certain areas, or do we have to view them individually?
I think that's an excellent question, and I've really been thinking that now that we're actually putting the database together, there has to be some kind of an analysis done. So I'm completely with that, with who's asking that question. That really is a next step. But the beauty of this thing is it's going to evolve, and it's going to evolve rapidly. We've started with 3 key performance indicators. We already have another 2 that we're going to start to build out. The question was in our minds, when do we start making it public? Do we wait until we have everything in place, or do we start right now where we do have something to offer? So we decided on now, but she's absolutely correct that we're moving towards something where you can have a quick summary and analysis. Like, for example, who you probably may say, Jeanette, who is the least, well-attended MP of all? Who not showing up? You just want to know. You wouldn't be able to put the name in because you don't know, but you would want to be able to have a summary that identifies maybe the best performer or the least performer at the click of a button. The answer to that is yes, but please keep the suggestions and the request and the feedback coming, because as you do that, we are going to build out the tool to meet your information needs. JAMP is here to serve you. And so as you think of different ways in which we will design that facility and that feature for you. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yes, Leo. This is Ella.
Okay.
Once a breach is discovered, Jeanette, it involves an MP. It's the impeachment process that is triggered, right?
No, Ella, actually, that is where we believe the government of Jamaica will empower us to get there. The problem is that the promise to retable the impeachment bill, it was just drafted. It was tabled for discussion in 2011. But when Bruce Golden demitted office, it kind of died.
Okay, right.
Right. So what Mr. Holness had said is, listen, guys, this is an important bill. And within the first 100 days, and usually when a prime minister said that is because he knows how important this is, So in the first 100 days, I am going to retable it. What JAMP is saying to citizens at home and abroad is, let us bring this back to Mr. Holness's attention, because what the act does, it really says that once any public official, whether it's a minister or not, brings the country into disrepute, or you simply lose public confidence in that person, you would be able to bring a request, and it spells out the mechanism by which citizens would be able to do that without having to wait another 4 or 5 or 3 years on an election. So we are hoping to raise the awareness around this so we can have a discussion with Mr. Holness regarding this commitment he made to put it back in the House and pass it.
I'll take another question.
Leo, John here. My voice is going. Is an app going to be available soon?
That was a discussion we had, and I'm still having it, John. And thanks for staying with us. I believe you're all the way in Dubai, so I really appreciate the time. It's morning for you. I did speak to the web development team about it. I must apologize to everybody who is on that we are only desktop ready. In another 3 weeks, the mobile device you'll be able to see it much better than you can right now. We are weighing the merits of an app, John, but that is an expense that is not currently in the budget. However, we are in the process of raising funds. There is a donation button. And if we're able to raise the additional funds that would require an app, that is definitely something that is in the offing.
Okay, thank you.
I'll take 2 more questions. It looks like you did pretty good.
Okay, well, that's great. I will remind them that they can email their questions then, Leo, because things will pop up after the fact to jamp@jampja.org. It's jamp@jampja.org. And I just want to, in closing, just thank
I did see one. A request from Akeelia, the Northeast Diaspora Advisory Board member, wanting you to come to New York for a face-to-face. So I'll pass on your information to her.
Wonderful, and we will make contact with her. Right. Thank you very much for that, Leo. Thanks for the invite. I look forward to discussing that with her. I just want to say in closing, guys, I want to acknowledge the fact that JAMP is actually a partnership with the private sector organization of Jamaica. And that last year, we really could not get where we are now without seed funding being provided by 9 corporate sector entities who saw the value. And outside of just the seed funding, they are now formal partners with JAMP. They are acknowledging that, look, corruption don't happen without the private sector. So they are stepping up to the plate to really empower citizens to help us to turn around this thing, that this cancer that's created really by a bad marriage between the public and the private sector. And so I really thank you guys again for your time this evening. And last but by no means least, Leo, I really want to point out, in case anybody was hesitant to ask about partisanship, because I know that there is a legitimate concern. JAMP again is looking only at data collected from government reports that can be verified by any citizen. We're only making them more accessible. And we are looking at not today going forward, but we are commenting on tracking issues 5 years back. So it covers both administrations. So I think that will remove any concern anybody might have about what is the motive and what is the agenda of JAMP. I just want to acknowledge that it's a legitimate question, and that's the way we answer it. The reports are government reports, and we're taking it from across 2 administrations, so we have a full picture.
All right, thank you so much. And
Thank
stay
you.
with us, Guy. We have one more short topic. I so appreciate this, Jeanette. You're great, and we're looking forward to working with you. Please make sure that you call me when you get in to Florida so we can do a face-to-face, all right?
I promise. Thanks a lot, Leah. Thank you, everyone.
All right, great. Hey, guys, we have Professor Rosalie Hamilton. There's some projects going on, and we want to keep you focused and focus on these projects as they all relate to crime. And stay with us. Let me have Professor Hamilton online. Professor.
Thank you very much, Leo. Jeanette, I want to thank you again for the excellent work you continue to do, and to your chairman, Howard Mitchell from the private sector. They are doing fabulous work.
Thanks,
and I want to thank all of you on the call from the diaspora, taking time to be here, because it tells us that you are concerned about what's happening in Jamaica and this issue of accountability. I want to just pick up on the point you made about insufficient citizen engagement. And JAMP is an excellent tool to hold our government accountable, and you've explained that. But I think that there's a view among some of us that we have to be more actively engaged as citizens. And so the work that I'm doing in the Lascaux Chin Foundation, we're targeting the broad problem of crime, focusing specifically on young at-risk youths. And coming out of this work, we thought it important to forge a coalition of individuals, churches, private sector, NGO, academics, all around citizen engagement and involvement in addressing the problem of crime in Jamaica. Some of you may know that we are now number 2 in the world based on 2017 data. We're the 2nd most murderous country in the world. And this is not going to change by simply waiting for the government to act. The police themselves have said to us that this is not a policing problem, this is a sociological problem. And so we have to get to the root of crime by getting into the homes and hearts of our people. We have to change that culture of crime. And so we have created a Citizen Security Action Group. In fact, Devon Clunis, who is on this call, is representing the diaspora through the Diaspora Education and Crime Task Force. And one of the key activities that I know he wants to do very badly is to have public engagement around their roles and responsibilities in addressing crime, especially from a community policing perspective. So that's important in terms of that work. And there's an important meeting that will take place in January, where members of this Citizen Security Action Group will interface with the newly created task force, JDTAN, and that's an action task force that will bring together all of the task forces together around issues of crime. So I'm very excited to be part of this. I think this is going to be historic. We've never had such a coordinated, targeted, strategic intervention on the part of citizens around crime. And so I am very pleased to be involved in it, not only through the work of my foundation, but as part of a citizen action group. And so that activity will take place the last week in January. And therefore, I know some of you who are part of the of this call and part of the task force are already aware of this possible meeting. We're pinning down the details. I think the tentative date to be confirmed this week is January 27th to the 30th. And that's the time frame. And so if you're not registered with JDTAN, there is a mechanism, Leo will tell you about that, and you can become involved in the task force. And all of this will be leading up to a week of action that will take place in June next year. So the meeting in January is going to be focused around crime. It will be a planning session, not only for the week of action, but for the time frame beyond the week of action, actually, quite frankly, for the next 10 years, as we agree to collaborate and to partner around strategic interventions to address the SDGs generally. This is the Sustainable Development Goals, and one of those goals speak to peace and justice and security, and that goal 16 is what we want to target, where we want to tackle issues that affect crime. So that's my short, quick presentation. Again, to commend all of you for the work you continue to do and the interest you continue to show about what's happening in Jamaica, especially in this very, very difficult issue of corruption and crime generally. Thank you very much.
Kimon, thank you so much, Professor Hamilton. That was brief and nice. I won't take any questions there, but I'm sure, Kimon, can you give us the URL, the website to sign up for the task forces?
Can I just put it in the chat? It's diasporataskforce.callingalljamaicans.org.
Yes.
That's diasporataskforce.callingalljamaicans.org, and it's in the chat and on Facebook.
All right. And I will be sending that out on links. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us. I really appreciate it. I hope to see you soon, especially in January for the strategic meeting coming up at the end of the month, 27th through 30th of January, where we're going to sit down, talk to stakeholders in Jamaica, identify needs, identify gaps, and plan our strategy for 2020 and beyond, up to 2030. So thank you so much for joining us, and we'll talk again soon.